firefighter stands in the pouring rain, staring in disbelief as a waterlogged forest suddenly explodes into a wall of flame. High above the Atlantic, a commercial pilot grips the yoke, looking down at a rust-colored blanket of smoke that swallows an entire continent. And in a quiet suburban backyard, a mother pulls her child close, freezing in place as an insect with a 2-foot wingspan casts a dark shadow over the grass. What is happening? None of this is a glitch in reality. Every one of these events is the direct, scientifically predictable outcome of a single, invisible shift in Earth's atmosphere. A change so small on a chart and so catastrophic in practice that almost nobody would think to fear it. Right now, the air filling your lungs is roughly 21% oxygen. It has hovered around that number for millions of years. But what if it didn't stop there? What if it kept climbing all the way to 35%? This is what if Earth's oxygen increased to 35%, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why a number that sounds almost harmless could rewrite fire, life, and civilization itself. Chapter 1. Introduction. To understand the terrifying new rules of this world, we first need to realize that Earth has actually lived through something like this before. Earth's atmosphere has never been a fixed thing. It's a delicate chemical negotiation between plants that release oxygen and the decaying matter that consumes it. For hundreds of millions of years, that balance has settled close to 21%. But rewind 300 million years to the Carboniferous period, and you would find a planet almost unrecognizable. Vast swampy forests grew faster than they could decompose. Oxygen accumulated in the atmosphere, climbing to an estimated 35%. The result was a world of giants. Dragonfly-like predators called griffinflies patrolled the skies with wingspans matching modern birds of prey. Millipedes grew longer than a human is tall, carving paths through an undergrowth that dwarfed everything beneath it. Life, given an unlimited supply of oxygen, simply built itself bigger. So what happens if that ancient atmosphere returns, not gradually over millions of years, but suddenly, within a single human lifetime? Whether triggered by a massive oceanic algae bloom or a collapse in the carbon cycle, the cause matters far less than the immediate aftermath. Because the moment that invisible threshold is crossed, the very first casualty is fire. Chapter 2. The first 24 hours. The first sign of the apocalypse wouldn't come from a scientist in a laboratory. It would come from a frantic call on a fire dispatcher's radio. Fire relies on a simple triad: fuel, heat, and oxygen. Fire scientists have long warned that once oxygen climbs past 24%, the rules of combustion fundamentally break. At 35%, the world becomes a tinderbox. A discarded cigarette on a damp roadside doesn't just smolder. It erupts into an inferno that outpaces a sprinting human. In a temperate, rain-soaked forest, a veteran firefighter swings a Pulaski tool, only to watch in horror as wet bark ignites like gasoline. Within hours, wildfire alerts trigger simultaneously on every continent. Emergency response networks buckle. Yet, in a chilling contrast, the humans fleeing these fires feel strangely euphoric. A family rushing to pack their car notices their hearts racing with effortless clarity. Their lungs are bathed in a sudden surplus of oxygen, offering a fleeting biological high. It's a cruel irony. Humanity has never felt better even as their planet begins to burn. By midnight, meteorologists and atmospheric chemists are staring at impossible satellite data. But the fires were only the beginning. As the smoke thickened, the real transformation had not yet begun. Chapter 3. Week 1. By the end of the first week, the crisis shifted from the roaring flames to the quiet shadows of the undergrowth. Entomologists began reporting something that sounded too terrifying to publish. Insects do not breathe with lungs. They rely on a branching network of tubes called tracheae, absorbing oxygen directly through diffusion. It is the single greatest biological limitation keeping bugs small. Remove that limit, and nature immediately goes to work. A seasoned beekeeper in a rural countryside lifts the lid of a hive and drops his smoker, stumbling backward. Emerging from the honeycomb are bees the size of sparrows. In city parks and suburban gardens, ordinary people freeze as enormous, heavily armored beetles shuffle through the grass. They aren't mutants. They are just the first generation reacting to a suddenly limitless supply of fuel. Meanwhile, a more silent disaster unfolds in the fields. A farmer walks through his wheat crop, crushing stunted, dying stalks in his hands. Many staple crops, wheat, rice, and soybeans, use a photosynthetic process that becomes toxic when flooded with excess oxygen. The plants are effectively choking. Fires are ravaging the wild. Giants are waking up in the dirt. And the world's food supply is quietly beginning to fail. 1 week down. But scientists soon discovered an even greater danger hiding inside the human body. Chapter 4. Month 1. By the 1-month mark, this was no longer a temporary emergency. Governments realized they were fighting a war on 3 fronts: the earth, the sky, and our own bloodstreams. Commercial pilots face a daily nightmare, navigating through a rust-colored stratosphere choked by global smoke. Air travel is restricted. Entire cities tape their windows shut as the thickest, least breathable smog in recorded history blankets the globe. Down on the ground, hospitals face a surging, invisible crisis. Oxygen is life-giving, but it is also highly reactive. Prolonged exposure to a 35% atmosphere creates aggressive molecules in the human body called reactive oxygen species. Doctors begin documenting widespread cumulative cellular damage. People are aging faster. Vision problems spike. The very air keeping humanity alive is slowly corroding them from the inside out. Global markets collapse. Insurance companies go bankrupt overnight, unable to price a world where a spark from a passing train can incinerate a town. The chaos of the first month gives way to a grim realization. The emergency phase is over. The fight for long-term survival has just begun. Chapter 5. Year 1. Give a crisis 12 months, and it stops being a crisis. It becomes the new reality. A year into the 35% world, the planet's map has been violently redrawn. Tropical rainforests, unequipped for intense fires, have been reduced to ash, replaced by hardy, fire-tolerant shrubs. A dragonfly the size of a hawk glides silently over an abandoned, scorched highway. The insects are no longer a terrifying novelty. They are a daily hazard. Families adapting to everyday life now check their yards for massive predators before letting their pets outside. Children growing up in this new era accept these giants as a completely normal part of their ecosystem. Agriculture has been forcibly overhauled. Wheat and rice are grown in massive climate-controlled biodomes, while resilient crops like corn and sugarcane dominate the outside world. Humanity has retreated into fortresses. Neighborhoods are no longer built for aesthetics. They are engineered for survival. Concrete, steel, and aggressive fire breaks replace wood and landscaping. 12 months of fire, biological explosive growth, and relentless reinvention. But what does this planet look like once the dust finally settles? Chapter 6. The New Earth. Give this world a decade, and something remarkable happens. The impossible starts to feel completely ordinary. 10 years later, Earth has found a brutal but stable equilibrium. Fire is no longer feared, it is managed. Specialized hotshot crews wearing heavy futuristic heat suits conduct daily prescribed burns, clearing the landscape before nature does it for them. The oceans, surprisingly, have healed. The massive influx of atmospheric oxygen has cured the seas of their dead zones, leading to an explosion of deep-water marine life. On land, the insects have stabilized. They haven't reached the horrifying proportions of the ancient Carboniferous era. True gigantism takes geological time, but they are massive, majestic, and undeniably in charge of the lower canopy. People walk the streets of heavily armored cities without looking twice at a beetle the size of a house cat resting on a concrete wall. Humanity has rebuilt its relationship with the planet. The world isn't ruined, but it belongs to a new set of rules. And the ultimate test is whether humanity can thrive within them. Chapter 7. The Future of Humanity. Every major shift in Earth's history has created losers and winners. The species that survive are the ones that realize the old rules no longer apply. Humanity's greatest advantage has never been our biology. It's our ability to engineer our way out of extinction. Civilization has shifted toward the poles. Regions that were once cold, wet, and unremarkable are now the most fiercely protected and densely populated megacities on Earth. Architecture is monumental, fireproof, and self-contained. Over generations, the human body itself will begin to adapt. Much like high-altitude populations evolved to thrive in thin air, future humans will develop stronger cellular defenses against oxidative stress. Their lungs will adapt, their blood chemistry will shift. They will be a new version of humanity, built specifically for a high-octane planet. They will have done what our species has always done, refused to surrender to a hostile universe, and instead, reshaped civilization to conquer it. Conclusion: could humanity survive a world with 35% oxygen? Yes. Ecosystems would be brutally rewritten. Fire would become our constant companion. But extinction was never the likely outcome. Life adapts, because Earth has run this experiment before. And when the atmosphere changed, life didn't collapse, it expanded into breathtaking new forms. The true terror isn't whether we would survive. It's how little would actually need to change to force us into a new era. Not an asteroid impact. Not a nuclear war. Just a single number, quietly climbing higher than it's been in hundreds of millions of years. As the sun sets over a sprawling, steel-reinforced city, a young child stands on a fireproof balcony. They watch in awe as a giant dragonfly, its wings catching the golden light, disappears into the clouds. To us, this is an apocalyptic nightmare. But to that child, this isn't an impossible world. It's simply home. And maybe that's the real lesson hiding inside this thought experiment. The air above your head, the one thing you never have to think about just to survive, is also the one thing capable of rewriting absolutely everything.